Good morning, everyone. I am Hazel Baruga Torla, one of your reporters today. Together with my group mates Joyce and Eliano and Belina Rose Pozo, we will be discussing the summary of Sabina by Severino Montano. But before that, let's do some background check about the author of this literature. Severino Montano is a Filipino playwright, director, and theater organizer. He is considered to be one of the most important figure in Philippine theater. He wrote over 50 plays, including Sabina, which explores the theme of love and betrayal. Montano's work helped establish a strong foundation for professional in Philippine theater. He was awarded the National Artist Award posthumously 2001 for his attribution to Philippine theater. Now let's begin. Sabina by Severino Montano. The sad and tragic story of a young, dark, and felicitous girl from Kawakan named Sabina began as she met the man whom she believed to be the love of her life. So here, Sabina is the play's protagonist. She is innocent, young, and deeply in love with a man. Everyone in the family tends to oppose this girl's affair with an American merchant, Mr. George, who is about in his early 30s. So the man na tinutukoy dito is an American merchant, which is si Mr. George Rice. So kung iisipin natin, parang oppose yung family niya sa relationship na meron si Sabina is dahil nga siguro nasa 30s na si Mr. George Price. But in deeper sense, malalaman natin kung ano nga ba yung talagang dahilan kung bakit ayaw ng pamilya niya. It has been the death of Maria, Sabina's mother, the discussion of the entire village and marketplace, and that the woman passed away because of the heavy burden that she felt upon knowing that her daughter has been going together with the controversial Mr. George. So that time is nakaburol yung nanay ni Sabina, si Maria. And usap-usapan sa village na ang dahilan ng pagkawala niya ay dahil nga sa burden, heavy burden, na nung nalaman ng nanay niya na merong karelasyon si Sabina. And yun na nga, si Mr. George Price. This depressing incident has made the whole household to be reluctant to any kind of light or happiness. They only preferred to pray and mourn and hide themselves in the absolute darkness of their sadly built simple house dimly lighted by a few of their candles. At dahil nga sa mga nangyayari, hindi maiwasan ng pamilya ni Sabina na hindi mainis kanyang mga pinaggagawa. That time is prayer sa burol ng kanyang ina, and hindi lang Maria ang nababanggit sa panalangin kundi pati na din ng Sabina na sana kaawaan din ng Panginoon. Then one evening, Sabina, happily walking in the house, seemed to be unwelcome. In spite of that, she chose to open the windows and let the moonlight in, search for the lamp, and gladly found it. So, sa mga nangyayari sa tahanan nila Sabina is nagagawa pa ni Sabina na maging masaya. She's doing some disrespectful action sa kabila ng mga nangyayari. Nagagawa pa niyang tumawa at parang wala siyang pakialam. Gusto pa nga niyang buksan ang window para makita ang sinag ng buwan. And that time, hinahanap din niya yung lamp. So, yung lamp na yan is very valuable to her. Kasi nga, galing ito kay Mr. George Price. And na-notice din ng family niya na simula nung binigay ito, hindi na siya gumagamit ng ibang ilaw, kundi ito na lang, yung lamp na lang. Her older brother, Antero, and some others were blaming her. They wanted Sabina to immediately call that simple relationship with Mr. George quits. So, sinisisi talaga nila si Sabina sa mga nangyayari. At gustong-gusto nila na makipaghiwalay na si Sabina kay Mr. George Price. However, the girl doesn't want to give up and tries to defend the two of them. But nobody intends to listen, for they know a thing which Sabina is not aware of. So, ito na nga yung sinasabi ko. There's a thing na hindi pa alam ni Sabina patungkol kay Mr. George Price. So, hindi lang pala dahil sa 30s, nasa 30s na si Mr. George Price, kung kaya't ayaw ng pamilya niya na makipagrelasyon dito. Meron pang hindi alam si Sabina tungkol sa lalaki. At ito ang ikinababahala ng pamilya ni Sabina. Besides, it has come to a point wherein she told everybody to get out and just leave her alone. Grabe, ang tigas ng ulo ni Sabina. Dahil nga deeply in love siya kay Mr. George, is parang wala na siyang naririnig. Even her family is trying na protektahan siya, wala siyang pakialam. Dahil nga, nabubulag na siya sa pag-ibig.
Mamerto, on the contrary, feels for Sabina and encourages her not to lose the smile that is always on her agreeable face. She goes comfortably with her grandfather as if he was her own father and tells him many things about her attachment with the American trader. So for those who's not familiar with who Mamerto is the grandfather of Sabina, and the reason why Mamerto supports Sabina's relationship with this American trader, which is Mr. George, is because Mamerto only focuses on the well-being of Sabina. He is afraid that if Sabina lose this guy, it would lead to her downfall. Kasi nga, at that moment, Sabina's mother died. As Mamerto ought not to feel his granddaughter's feelings, he chose not to talk about that any further. Seconds after, Antero comes back, then closes and locks the gate. They argued again about her unlawful affair with Mr. George, that Sabina just desired to glow the lamp and see her lover over. So in this part, Sabina is planning to see her lover, which is Mr. George, but Antero interrupts her plan. But in turn to breaking that nice lamp of hers, so she dared Antero that she will open the gate no matter what. So, because of that argument, nasira yung lamp na mahalaga kay Sabina. And because of that, Sabina said na, no matter what happened, kakausapin niya yung guy ngayon. And what happened was, narinig nila yung boses ni Mr. George sa labas. Sabina's happy again upon hearing the voice of her lover, but her brother simply gave her a hard slap on her face due to the extreme shame which his younger sister had been doing. So Antero is shamed about the relationship between Mr. George and his younger sister Sabina, mainly because of the rumors spreading around Kawakan that the relationship is the reason of their mother's death. And also, Mr. George is quite old to be in a relationship with Sabina, because I've searched it and it turns out that Sabina is only 18 years old. Can you imagine that? Mr. George arrived warily and thought of Sabina. Both talked romantically and swore to always keep the love they have for each other. And when the guy is about to sleep, Sabina conferred him a gift and said that she's been thinking of their marriage someday and their little children. astounded but glad. The American merchant loved to hear the news that his girl is bearing their child. Subsequently, the man told Sabina not to spread it at this time. So, what do you think the reason why Mr. George is acting weird at this moment? Now let's continue. And this unmindful girl swiftly informed him that she has told no one yet and feels good about their marriage in the near future. On the other hand, Mr. George spoke to her slowly, closely, and heartbreakingly, confessed to her that they cannot be wedded due to the fact that he is already with a woman whom he does not love very much. Sabina refused to believe, but Mr. George insisted. She really got frustrated about this, lost faith, and felt cheated at all. Somehow this lover of hers begged for her love and wanted to go on being happy together again. But a breath of emptiness feels to be present within them now. Sabina then ran back and looked for Mamerto. So after the confrontation na kabit si Sabina, and nalaman niya too late na buntis na siya at that moment. And because of that Sabina is frustrated and hinanap niya agad si Mamerto. But it was Antero who was there. So, si Mamerto yung plano niya kakitain, pero ang nadatnan niya is si Antero. She deeply wanted to tell her brother about everything she just known, but he went on being apathetic and only pushed her to the floor. Sabina saw the light now that she was completely wrong in falling in love for that Mr. George. So, sasabihin na sana ni Sabina ang lahat-lahat, pero ang unang ginawa ni Antero sa kanya is tinulak siya. After ni Antero matulak si Sabina, I'm sorry for that, doon niya lang na-realize na mali siya ng minahal. Maling minahal niya si Mr. George. Lastly, she explained to the whole household, ran back to her room and shut herself. So, kinonfess lahat ni Sabina yung nalaman niya about the status of Mr. George na kasal na ito. And then afterwards, pumunta siya sa room niya and doon na siya nagpakamatay by shooting herself with a gun. The noise was heard by Mr. George and Antero that they eventually sought for Sabina. Then the lover came out carrying his girl's dying body. They bothered to care, but the entire Kawakan has no doctors at all. So, they're trying to save Sabina at that moment, pero yung Kawakan na lugar nila, walang doktor doon. So, eventually, Sabina died telling her presumed man that she'll be waiting for him on the hill by the sea, always. Mr. George blamed himself and went out of the house that evil night. It ended that the family grieved again for the death of another relative, but this time it was Sabina. So, as we can observe in the story, Sabina is too young for that man, and Sabina still needs guidance from those individual na mas nakakaalam sa buhay. And my takeaway in this story is love is not bad if you knew that the person you are giving the love, the care, the attention, and your time is the right person para sa'yo. Also, be mindful sa magugustuhan mong tao. Kailangan kilalanin mo muna kung anong status nito, ano bang ugali niya. Because in reality, hindi naman lahat ng mga happy ending nangyayari. And it is best to find a partner na magiging totoo sa'yo. Kasi dito sa story na to, based on my opinion, yes, Mr. George did love Sabina, but he lied to her. And because of that, iniisip ko na makasarili si Mr. George. And in love, love supposed to be patient, kind, and respectful. And Mr. George is quite selfish about that fact, diba? And for Sabina naman, I cannot blame her for the heartbreak she felt at that moment, but ending her life is not the solution of her problem, diba? Especially na may baby siya. So, always chose to love her first, to love ourselves first before we gave the love that other people deserve, diba? You cannot save other people without saving yourself first. So that's
The characters are Sabina, a protagonist in the story who's only 18 years old, an inexperienced and innocent girl who still needs guidance. She fell in love with Mr. George, a married man and he's 30s already. Mr. George, a charming American businessman, arrives in the Filipino village of Kawakan and falls for Sabina. He promises her love and a good life, but he is secretly married and only cares about himself. He tricks Sabina, and his lies hurt her deeply. Maria, mother of Sabina, has the divide of life. Antero is Sabina's older brother. He represents a more practical and grounded perspective. Mamerto is the grandfather of Sabina, whose central figure in the play, representing a traditional, conservative worldwide that clashes with Sabina's modern independent spirit. The setting is in Kawakan, in the village in Severino, Montano. Sabina is a fictional place. It's not a real village in the Philippines. The plot is Sabina is young and naive about love. She fell for a man who's already married. The truth about the status of the man that she loved results her to take her own life. Exposition: the family of Sabina accept Mamre to her grandfather, and the villagers' skepticism towards Sabina's relationship, coupled with her family's and villagers' fear to change, hint at the potential for a tragic outcome. The rising action builds tension and conflict, escalating towards the climax of the play. The falling action, it's the part of the story where it started to unreveal the consequences of the decisions of Sabina, where the actions of the climax have lasting impact. The denouement, a powerful, ambiguous ending that leaves a lasting impression on the reader or the audience. It doesn't offer a traditional resolution, rather it emphasizes the lingering consequences of the play's tragic event. The conflict. After unraveling the truth, she decided to talk to Antero and her family about what she discovered, but Antero was furious about her and Mr. George, results in a ravaging confrontation that triggered Sabina to take her own life. Theme: love and betrayal, the consequences of choices, family and society's expectations, judgments and double standards, tragedy and redemption. The point of view: the play Sabina is told from a third-person objective point of view. This means the audience only sees the actions and hears the dialogues of the characters without knowing their inner thoughts. The emotions and struggles of Sabina, her family, and Mr. George are revealed through their words and actions. This perspective lets the audience focus on the events and make their own judgments about the characters and their decisions.